What's going on, Wolfpack? Welcome back to another episode of Market Watch Mondays. As always, I am your host, your captain, Mike Me Up with 2Ps on Twitter, aka Mike, aka Agoon. I'm happy to be here. I'm recording this a little bit earlier this week because my girlfriend and I are heading out to attend a wedding of her friend, so won't be able to record on the weekend, but also don't want to miss the episode. And I typically record these before the week games anyway, so that they're mostly strategy based and more like theory crafting versus like player analysis. I'll splash in some player analysis in there for sure, like I did last week. But I usually don't plan to record these after the game to take in that week's info. I think I like to have the week to react, to analyze, to take in all the information before making any type of decisions like that. So this week is no different. It'll be more of like a strategy thinking approach. We're kind of like approaching that midseason form. So I think there's a lot of questions that people have, a lot of common questions I'm getting in my Twitter DMs, I'm getting in the Patreon and stuff like that. So I want to take some time to kind of just address that all together. But before we do that, man, y'all know what time it is by now. Hit that intro. All right, so Buypocalypse. Everyone's talking about Buypocalypse. What is it? It's just that a lot of the good players are out this week on bye. We have the Vikings on bye. We have the Chargers on bye. We have the Steelers on bye. We have, who else is on bye? Just like a bunch of really top-end players. So like, Eckler, Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. There's like 4 really fantasy-relevant players there already out of the bye, right? And then you got Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson. They're gone on the bye. And then you got, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Najee Harris. They're out on the bye. So just a lot of buys. It's a tough week to get by. I mean, I'm submitting some rosters this week that I've never seen before in terms of like how shitty they are. It's actually pretty comical. There are literally some leagues where I can't even submit like a valid lineup. So I have to go into friggin' MFL today and pick up a bunch of just roster fodder so I can actually submit a legitimate lineup, because between the bye weeks and the injuries, it is rough out there for some folks. I know I'm feeling it in some of my leagues. I'm sure some of you guys are doing it as well. So I wanted to really take this episode to kind of help you shape where your team goes the rest of the year, right? This is a crucial decision point, right? We're now 6 weeks in, right? We're basically a third of the season's already been, more than a third of the season has been played. Playoff picture is starting to get pretty clear, right? Especially in your dynasty teams. Are you an 0-6 team, 1-5 team? That's the chances of hitting the playoffs are looking pretty grim. Or even more dangerous, are you like on that cusp? Are you a 2-4 team? Are you a 3-3 team? But when you look at your points for like your potential points, you're actually a bottom tier team, right? That's the key. Like, this is the crucial decision point for you to make. Do I need to go all in, or should I taper back and, should I prepare for next season? And I know some people out there don't like giving up as long as they're in the playoff hunt, right? I'm not one of those people. I like to operate my team on the extremes. If I'm all in, I'm all in. Like, I know the teams that I'm contending in, they are for sure contending. There are a couple guys that are on the fringe, but that's only because in those leagues, I feel like there's no true like alpha yet. There's no true top end contender that's super elite. So that's a little bit different. For the most part, my teams are either all the way in or they're all the way out. And I've already started to make those decisions as early as last week, but I feel like you really don't want to go much farther than this week, because if you fall to like a 0-7, 1-6, and then you make that decision, here's the problems that you're going to face, right? One, I mentioned this before, but you want to be first to market, right? If you know you're going to rebuild, you want to be the first guy in your league, or at least one of the first guys in your league that makes that decision, so you can get the best price on the market. Because what's going to happen is if you wait till everyone else realizes the same thing, the disadvantage is now it is a buyer's market. So any contender, they have their choice in the matter. They can pay whatever they want because there's 4 or 5 guys coming to them asking for picks, right? You don't want to be in that position. You want to be proactive, and if you made the rebuild decision, you want to make that decision now, right? Similarly, on the flip side, I could also say if you are truly going to make a push and go all in for this year, then you should also make that decision early, because it could also play out the other side where maybe you have a bunch of teams that think they're going to go for it, and there aren't that many rebuilding teams. So there's only a few key marquee assets you can go after on a rebuilder, right? That'll also shape your strategy. So you got to make that call early. And the key is, people always ask me, what should I do with injuries, right? Like, I had a really good team coming in, but now Saquon Barkley's out. Now maybe CMC's out for a couple weeks. Like, let me list out how crazy this year has been in terms of injuries, right? I know we say that every year, but this year really maybe it's just because my teams have been hit the hardest this year, but I'm really, really feeling it, right? Before the season started, we lost Akers, Etienne, Dobbins, gone. 3 of the top young running backs, arguably 3 of the top 15 to 20 dynasty running backs gone right off the bat, right? So basically 15% of the running backs are already gone there. And then on the wide receiver side, MT on PUP, arguably a top 5, top 10 wide receiver at worst, right? So like before the season's already started, you're already losing like studs. And then we get into the season, right? What happens? Barkley gets hurt. He's got an ankle injury. We don't know how many weeks he's out for that. Honestly, just a fucking disgusting fluke injury because like if you watch it, like someone just stepped on him. He was really starting to blow up, right? He was getting the usage. He's getting that Barkley level usage that we're used to seeing. He's putting Barkley up numbers that we're used to seeing. And then so it's just really, really unfortunate to see that. And you saw his ankle swell up. So Barkley's out. CMC re-aggravated his hamstring. So he's on IR now, out for a few weeks. Last week, Chubb was out, so Hunt was in, and then Hunt now on IR, calf for a few weeks. He's out. CEH, we saw he had a sprained MCL. He's on IR, right? AJ Brown's been in and out dealing with sicknesses, food poisoning, whatever. Julio Jones been in and out. David Montgomery was having a monster year. Then he went on IR because of knee injury, right? And then Russell Wilson, finger IR, right? Will Fuller, IR. I mean, that one's not that surprising given it's Will Fuller, but still. Josh Jacobs has been in and out. Dalvin Cook's been in and out, right? George Kittle, IR. Jerry Jeudy, IR. Juju Smith-Schuster, IR. Chris Carson, IR. I mean, you're looking at like 1/3 of like the top 3-4 rounds of the draft that are basically out on injury. So there are a lot of teams that are starting to really, really feel it, right? So it's it's been pretty rough, I would say, at least in my opinion. This has been one of the more rough years that I can recall personally. I'm sure some of you out there may have experienced something similar to this, but for me personally, it just hasn't really gotten much worse. So what does that leave you, right? If you're a contender and you miss a couple of injuries, what does that mean? So I'll give you some like real life examples, right? Like I have a team with Etienne, Dobbins, Akers, CEH, and Gus Edwards. So I had 5 legit like top 15, 20 running backs, all gone. Right now I'm left with like Miles Sanders, and I can't even field another running back. I have to field like Darius Geis, who's obviously not even on the team. So the teams like that where you're getting hit with 2, 3, 4 injuries, I mean, people hate giving up, but you got to mail it in for that one, because in order to try and turn that team around, you're going to burn value, right? So when an injury happens to your team, you have 2 choices. You either ride it out, or you have to try and trade that player at a discount, sometimes a very big discount, to get someone else in your lineup that works, right? I think the worst thing you can do is, I see people do this all the time, is they lose a running back and then they go out and they burn a 2nd-round pick on like a temporary fill-in, like a Mike Davis, right? They burn a 2nd-round pick on a D'Ernest Johnson. They burn a 2nd-round pick on a Khalil Herbert, right? Because they think, okay, well, I just need to pay the 2nd-round pick to get it. Because like the issue with that is you're basically setting that value on fire, right? This is Dynasty we're playing. You're taking that pick and you're lighting it on a fire. You're saying, okay, cool, whatever. I don't need it anymore. So versus what I like to do when I get an injured player, I like to trade down. And normally when you trade down, you get an extra pick on top. But in an injury scenario, you won't, right? Like you take a Travis Etienne, you trade him for another running back that isn't as good, that isn't as young, right? And you hope to get that production. But I don't like trading for an asset that I think is just going to zero. So like, I would not trade Travis Etienne for Cordero Patterson, because even though Cordero Patterson's balling out right now, I don't think his value is really going to hang around for more than a year, right? So you basically take that 1st-round pick that you spent on Travis Etienne, you lay it on a fire, and you hope that your team wins. Because if your team doesn't win, it was all for nothing, right? So the way I make the decision is I look at my team after that injury, right? And I say, if I suffer another injury, another big injury, is my team dead in the water, right? So let's say I had Saquon Barkley, and I have many teams with Saquon Barkley, right? And on one of those teams, besides Saquon Barkley, I also have Jonathan Taylor. I had J.K. Dobbins. So I actually had J.K. Dobbins and Saquon Barkley on this team. This team is still in first place because I built it to kind of sustain that type of depth. But so I lost Saquon Barkley. I lost J.K. Dobbins, and I traded him away. I lost Travis Etienne. I had Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, and Saquon Barkley on this team. I lost Travis Etienne, and I lost J.K. Dobbins before the season. I traded both of them away to get like some future rookie picks, which I can hopefully use to trade into players if I need it. And I use them to trade into T.J. Hawkinson, who in the tight end premium league, right? So in this league, I lost all 2 of them, and I lost Saquon Barkley, but I still have Darrell Henderson, who's balling right now. I have Jonathan Taylor, who's balling right now, even though he's not getting the touches we want to see him get. And I have our Lord and Savior, the King himself, James Robinson. So in a team like that, I'm still very much in contention, right? And my wide receivers, I have A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, and I have Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and I have Michael Thomas coming back. So I'm loaded at wide receiver, right? And then I have Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson at quarterback. And it's a points per carry super flex league. So that team, right, even though I suffered a lot of those catastrophic injuries, I'm still okay. I'm still good to move forward. So on that team, that's why I made a couple moves. I traded J.K. Dobbins for a discount. I traded Travis Etienne for a little bit of discount because I wanted that flexibility. And I traded them for future rookie picks and young players that if they were healthy, I would not have made that trade, but because he's injured, I have to take that hit. But it doesn't sink my team. I didn't light that capital on fire. I just invested in other assets, and those assets have a chance to increase in value and still outproduce and make it worth it in the end. Right? There's that opportunity for them to do that. There's no opportunity for a Cordell Patterson to ever outvalue a Travis Etienne again, right? So there's really no opportunity for that. So that's why I don't like making those what I'll call temporary trades. When I get an injury on a contending team and I'm still trying to compete, what I will do is try and trade for an asset that I still think has long-term value, but is maybe a tier below in terms of valuation, right? So that's what I did in that league. And I'm not going to trade away Saquon Barkley because he's not done for the season. So I'm just going to ride it out and hope that he comes back. And like I said, I have Michael Thomas coming back from injury as well. And I'm absolutely loaded at wide receiver. So that's a team where I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good, right? I'm good. And if these injuries come to me, I'm willing to make some trades to get some flexibility, to get some assets to help me continue to make that push. And that team is still in first place, right? But then there's other teams where, that's not the case. And if that's not the case, then you need to ask yourself, okay, if I take another catastrophic injury, right? Like in that team I just said, if I lose Jonathan Taylor, right, next week, my team is still okay. It's still going to compete because Saquon Barkley is going to come back eventually. I have Michael Thomas coming back to fill in the tank. So that team is not going to ride or die on one major injury, except for quarterback. That's different. Like I like to play the high-risk game at quarterback. I normally don't like having 3 elite quarterbacks in play. So when I have a Kyler Murray and a Lamar Jackson, I'm just going to ride with those 2 quarterbacks and see what happens. So barring a catastrophic injury to quarterback, I'm okay. I could lose my top wide receiver. I could lose my top running back. I could lose my top tight end, and I will still be a top contender in that league, right? But if you ask yourself that question, and that's not the case, because remind you, we're not even halfway through the season yet, and this is the type of injuries that we're seeing, all right? And there's still some high risk guys on there, like Dalvin Cook. He could get hurt, going down the stretch. Josh Jacobs, I could easily see him getting hurt again. And some of these guys that we expect to come back, like the David Montgomery, right, and the CMC, the Nick Chubbs, even the Barkleys, we could see them potentially re-aggravating some of those injuries that they have. So you need to really ask yourself, like, hey, if I lose one more guy, like, am I fucked? And if that answer is yes, and you would be fucked beyond repair, I would advise against dumping off your injured players to try and get more production to try and really chase, because that is a very, very high risk maneuver that doesn't really pay off for you, right? Because you need so many stars to align. You need so many things to go right. You need all the other teams, the top end teams, that actually suffer some injuries as well on their side in order for you to make it. And like, those are not the dice rolls that I want, right? I want to roll a dice and be like, at worst, like even odds with everyone else to try and go in and contend for the championship. And if I'm not, then you're on the flip side, right? You're on the flip side and you say, okay, I'm not a contender, right? I've lost Saquon Barkley. I've lost CMC. This season is just not my season. And that's okay. That's okay, because in Dynasty, the beautiful thing with a Dynasty is you can always look forward to the next week, right? The next year, the next trade. And that's what you should be doing. And if you are someone like that, you should be on the flip side of this and say, okay, there's a lot of contending teams or potentially other teams that aren't making the same assessment, and they're just like, wow, I lost Saquon Barkley, I need to replace him with someone else, and they're willing to trade him right away, right? They're not going through the same cycle and same sound thought process that you're going through. Then you can say, okay, well, I can go acquire players at an injury discount, right? I did not have Barkley on many of my dynasty teams until last year. Last year, I made a huge push to trade for Saquon Barkley, right? And I still believe he's probably one of the most talented running backs in the league. I still believe he's going to be a league winner eventually when things kind of do go his way and he does get a little bit healthier. So this would be a good time to go and trade for Saquon Barkley, to go and trade for Christian McCaffrey. I saw someone ask a question on Twitter the other day saying, like, CMC's been injured now in back-to-back years. Like, is he really still the 1.01? To me, the answer is very clearly yes, but I understand the concerns people, right? Like, if he's injured once, he might get injured again. Hamstrings are notoriously tough to come back from. But here's the thing. If CMC comes back, right, for the back half of the season and does what CMC does, which is, average 25, 28, 30 points a game, I think he will still be the 1.01 next year. But if he doesn't come back or he comes back too late, he's not coming back to help you win in that position, or they shut him off, then he won't be. But in my opinion, he still should be, but I'm just going to take the discount whatever he's at to get him where he's at, because to me, there is no greater fantasy cheat code than Christian McCaffrey. If you just look at what he's done for the past few years, it's actually incredible. Like, he is the modern day LaDainian Tomlinson, except he hasn't been healthy, right? So health, for me, it's just a risk area for me that I kind of willing to take on if the upside is there. And for someone like a CMC, it absolutely is. So if you are a non-contending team, right, you could do the reverse of my trade, which is give up a lesser asset to jump tiers for an injury discount, right? So give up a lesser running back for a CMC. Try and see if you can give up Dalvin Cook and get Christian McCaffrey, right? Dalvin Cook, maybe even plus a little bit, get Christian McCaffrey, because those who are contending, they're going to view Dalvin Cook as a stud, rightfully so, or try and trade an Alvin Kamara, right? Give him Alvin Kamara for Christian McCaffrey. Give him an Alvin Kamara for Saquon Barkley. Give him an Alvin Kamara for one of those top end guys. And you could, I really do think you can get that type of deal done. And if you're a rebuilding team, like, it's good. It's a really good thing for your team because, one, you remove points off of your bench, you remove points off of your scoring, so which helps inflate the value of your own draft picks, right? But two, you basically get to buy a player on an injury discount. And buying a player on an injury discount a year ahead is always something that I'm looking to do. So like I said, last year I acquired a lot of CMC. I did a lot of those trades. I gave up I traded like Ezekiel Elliott for Saquon Barkley last year. After Barkley went down on teams that I was rebuilding, I offered up Ezekiel Elliott for Saquon Barkley, and I got a lot of those trades done. And then I was on the flip side of that too. I gave up Saquon Barkley for Ezekiel Elliott plus in a league where I was contending. So I'm not telling you to go and rip off people, right? Like, I've been on both sides of the trades, and depending on where you're at in your team, where your life cycle is, if you're contending, if you're rebuilding, it can make sense either way. So that's all I'm saying is try and go out and take advantage of these things now, right? And I get it. If you're one of those people that are like, look, I don't give a fuck, I don't want to give up until the fat lady sings and all that stuff, all the power to you, right? Go ahead and do that. For me, that's just not my approach because I find that to be value destructive. And in Dynasty, the people that accrue the most value over the long run should win, unless you're just awful managers with awful luck, right? So I'm trying to make those trades. Russell Wilson is another one, right? If you can trade up to a Russell Wilson using a tier down quarterback, I would absolutely do that. So I would take what's a good example here? Like, if you could take a Ryan Tannehill, although maybe he hasn't been performing that well this year, so it might be a little bit tougher. But if you can use like Aaron Rodgers, for example, right? If you can take an Aaron Rodgers and swap him into Russell Wilson, I would absolutely do that. Even if to add a little bit, because Russell Wilson, mind you, is still 32 years old and is going to be a Hall of Famer. So, or you can trade up, and people might think like, I don't want to trade for Russell Wilson from a rebuilding team. Well, the fact of the matter is he still has a very, very long life cycle and a very, very many years to play before we really see him tone down the production. So I would be totally fine trading for Russell Wilson, even as a rebuilding team, right? But giving up a Russell Wilson, trading for a Russell Wilson is a great move for a rebuilding team, because come next year, right? The beauty about acquiring guys at a discount is especially proven guys that are elite at a discount, is usually by that time next year, their value recuperates, at least, if not all the way to their prime, at least the majority of their prime. So with a Russell Wilson, right, you trade down and you give up like a Aaron Rodgers, or you give up like a Jalen Hurts, right? Give up Jalen Hurts for a Russell Wilson. Give up a Matthew Stafford for a Russell Wilson. Those are all, even if they add a couple, like Matthew Stafford plus a second round pick for Russell Wilson, right? Or Jalen Hurts, right, plus a second round pick for Russell Wilson. I feel like those are all good trades for a rebuilding team to make, because you anchor in that key quarterback that you need to make a push down the line, right? So it's just a matter of navigating where your team is at and trying to think about the trades that make sense. So I would encourage all of you to do this, right? This week, even before the games are played, if you want, because hopefully before the games are played, actually, go out, look at all your rosters, right? Really give yourself an honest assessment, right? Don't fool yourself, because the only thing you're doing when you say like all I need is this, all I need is that, do not be an all I need guy, right? All I need guys are the ones that are consistently in the bottom half of your league. That's where they're at. That's the truth. The guys that dominate know what they need, and there isn't an all I need. They're just like, hey, I have what I need, right? Those are the true dominant guys. If you're constantly asking yourself this question, like, oh, all I need is like this guy to get better, and this guy to play better, and this other guy to really stack it up. Like, all I need is McCole Harmon to break out. All I need is like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold to go back to their week 3 performance, and then I'm in the playoffs, right? Do not be that guy, because all I need guys just do not get very far in terms of where their dynasty teams are in the grand scheme of things. So make a true honest assessment of your team, right? If you've been stuck with the injury bug and you're getting plastered and just getting blasted with injury after injury after injury, at some point, like, the Band-Aid effect is not going to work. You can't just keep trading out injured players for healthy players and taking that discount, right? If you keep doing that, you're just destroying value, and at the same time, you're destroying value just to keep up with someone, right? That's the thing. Like, you can destroy that value just to keep up, but then what that other guy has is another leg on top of you, right? So in my teams where I'm at the top, if I see someone who's getting injuries that's constantly trading out for value and trying to get production, I'll just take one of my rookie picks, or I'll take one of my players and just boost up my team, right? So they like basically sacrifice all their effort, like they burned all that value trading away players at injury discount to catch up to me to here. I can use my rookie picks, my other players just go here, right? So that's the thing. Like, they will always be one step ahead of you. You do not want to be the one that's constantly chasing and constantly trying to catch up, right? That's not a good place to be if you want to win. You want to be a contending team in the long run. So it's better off to just take a step back and say, look, hey, this is not my year. Let me try and accumulate value. Let me try and get the value from other teams that aren't making that assessment, from other teams that are trying to use a Band-Aid approach, and their loss is my gain. I can use their value to bolster my offense and bolster my team and bolster my value, so that come next year when my players are healthy, I'll make a strong push, and hopefully the injury bug won't hit you as hard at that time, right? That's what it all comes down to, is timing, right? Fantasy football, there's a big degree of luck. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I don't care if you're the best player in the world, right? If you're the best player in the world, you drafted Christian McCaffrey and you drafted like Saquon Barkley and you drafted all these running backs. I don't care if you're the best player in the world. You're still going to get fucked like the rest of us, right? And that's the thing. It's just recognizing that. I know some people don't want to let go of it, but like, I have no problem letting go. And maybe it's because I'm in a bunch of leagues where like I know I'm always going to have some teams like that and other teams that are dominating. And, but this year just feels like it's more often of the former, where I have a lot of teams that are just getting ripped apart, and I have to make those tough decisions, and I have to be like, okay, well, look, this team is not going to win. And even though I'm in the playoff hunt, as people love to say. People love to say that. If you're in the playoff hunt, then don't give up, right? But I'm trying to win the game. I'm not trying to just make the playoffs, right? I don't want to squeak by in the playoffs, sacrifice all my value, and get blown up by like a real contender, right? So, and I understand like anything can happen, right? Anything can happen any given week. You could win, right? But those are low odds plays that I'm not one to play. It's a numbers game for me. So I'm always trying to approach the game with the biggest edge to myself and the highest probability of hitting, right? So if I know it's a lotto pick or it's like a shot in the dark, I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket and make that big bet and potentially screw myself for the next 2-3 years, because I'm in it for the long haul, right? I don't really leave leagues, right? Even the leagues where my teams are shit, I'm still in them. Those are more fun for me. I'm rebuilding, take a lot less work, but I'm in it for the long run. So if you're in it for the long haul and you believe in your team in the long haul, then you should be willing to take that step back and say, look, this is not my year, because the only teams that really need to go all in is like it shows that you don't really believe in your team long term, right? And if you don't believe in your team long term, you have bigger problems, right? You should be tearing that shit down and trying to build towards a team that you do believe in. Do not sink more capital into a sunk cost. A lot of people think about it that way too, like, oh, like I've already given up my rookie picks for next year, so I might as well just burn it all. And that's not the right approach. Yes, you might have given up your rookie pick next year and your team sucks. You might not get that pick, but your team's still not going to be that great 2 years out, right? So the more like shit you shovel in and keep burning to try and keep this train going, the more damage you're doing, and the longer and longer and longer your true rebuild timeline will be, and the more and more and more you'll have to wait, and the more and more value you have burned, and the more mistakes you're going to have to try and come back from. And that's just not a place you want to be. And I tell you this, trust me when I say this, I tell you this because I know I've been there, right? When I first started playing Dynasty, I was like, I already traded my first round rookie pick. What's the worst that can happen? Might as well go all in anyways. Let me tell you what's the worst that can happen. You can set yourself back 2-3 years, and it's this shitty feeling because next year you get another injury. Or next year, maybe the players you thought were going to come back and be good aren't that good, right? There's so many other factors at play. It's best to take a step back sometimes and say, look, you know what? This is not my year, and wave the little white flag. It doesn't make you a wuss. Doesn't mean you're a loser. It doesn't make you give up. It just means you're calculated and you're trying to do what it is that is best for your team, right? And that's not everyone's approach. That's fine, but that's my approach. And my approach has worked out for me very, very well, to the point where I have teams that I have to take a step back and they'll come back next year and they'll dominate, right? That's the beauty of it, is like you might have given up one year, but the next year coming back just as strong, if not stronger, if you make the right decision. So again, to sum it all up, man, like if you are a contender, right, and a true contender, a contender where if you take another massive injury to your starting lineup, you're still very, very much in the hunt for the championship. And if that's the case, then you can go and look at potentially trading out like a CMC or a Chubb or not, probably not a Chubb because he'll be back soon, a CMC or a Barkley, or a CEH, Dobbins, ETN. Try and take a little bit of a value hit on those guys to try and target like a wide receiver, running back that can help you win now, right here. Russell Wilson, try and trade down a little bit if you need to make that playoff contention. And then, similarly with George Kittle, try and trade down into like a TJ Hawkinson if you can. You probably can't trade into Kyle Pitts because after that blow-up game, he's probably untouchable at the moment. Maybe wait for a couple more slow weeks, but you can make those types of moves now, right? Trade. Cam Akers, for example, we're seeing some footage now of him healing up and doing the right drills, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you can use that and leverage that to trade him into something that can help you this year, then by all means do that, right? And some targets you can get, Darrell Henderson, someone that I was not very high on all offseason. I mentioned him before, but I think he's a good running back target for right now because we don't know what's going to happen, especially when Cam Akers comes back. But he, for this year at least, is going to be a running back one, and there's the chance that he's in a committee, or there's a chance that Cam Akers doesn't come back all the way and he doesn't heal all the way, and Darrell Henderson kind of holds that job. So he's someone where you can probably get that type of discount for, but still ride out into the future and still have some value, right? So, James Robinson, another good one where, now it's back-to-back years. It's a lot harder to ignore back-to-back years where he's highly, highly productive versus just 1 year that people would say that's a fluke. But now it's been back-to-back years, both on extremely shitty teams with two different coaching staffs and totally different things from that nature. So, again, it just goes back to stepping back and taking like the big picture, but those are types of guys you can trade down into to try and help you going forward, right? Same thing with Kareem Hunt. Trade out Kareem Hunt for someone that's a little bit lesser on that front. So there's a lot of moves you can make there to try and help bolster your team as a contender. And then, again, if you're a rebuilder, take that step back, be honest with yourself, and try and acquire some of these guys at an injury discount. Probably not a Cam Akers. We don't know about the Achilles thing, but like J.K. Dobbins, Saquon Barkley, CMC, these are guys that are pretty much untouchable when they're healthy. So the only time you can buy them is when they're injury. And, apparently that comes with a little bit of risk, but that's a risk I'm willing to take in order to swing for the fences on the win. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed. That's all I got for y'all this week. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at MikeMip with 2 Ps. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, helps me more than you know. Hit the little notification bell as well, and that'll give you notifications whenever I go, either go live or drop more videos like this. And then, come and join us on the Discord. Patreon.com/OurPack. That's Patreon.com/OurPack will be linked in the comments below. We got a strong community there in the Discord, talking Dynasty all the time, 24/7. I'm talking trades. I'm telling you every trade that I've done. Every time I do a trade, I basically go in there and drop it in. I talk about my reasoning and all that stuff. So it gives you a little bit of insight of what I'm doing. Like when I tell you to do this stuff, like I'm actually doing it in behind the scenes. So I'm not bullshitting you. So if you're feeling the pain, I'm also feeling the pain. I'm very invested in the advice that I give and the moves that I make. And it comes from practical. It's come from all the leagues. I'm in like 30-something leagues. It comes from me testing all these things out in various leagues and what I see from like real live market experience versus just, theory crafting and all that bullshit. So hop on the Discord if you really want to up your Dynasty game and just really understand the theory crafting, the game theory, and the way I approach it, the way I think, the way I do stuff in my leagues. join in the Discord. I promise you it'll be worth your money and more. And that's where you get all my ranks as well. So my monthly ranks, which they update, Dynasty, Devi, Dynasty and Devi combined, Cornerstone ranks, all super flex, PPR, they'll all be in there and they'll be updated on a monthly basis. So just just make sure you guys get in there for some of the best Dynasty content. And lastly, our partnership with Dynasty Nerds. Big fan of Dynasty Nerds. As you guys know, I've been rocking with them since the OG days of me coming on Fantasy Twitter. But you can get a discount signing up with them. One of the coolest tools they have is the Dynasty GM tool. It kind of aggregates all your information across all your leagues. It tells you how you rank against your league mates. You can construct trades. You can like set, look at your lineups and make sure you're not missing anything. So it's just a great aggregator tool for those of you guys like me that are in a bunch of leagues. If you're in I would say if you're in 5 or more leagues, this is a really cool tool for you to use to try to help you evaluate and that assessment that I said, right? Are you a contender or are you not a contender? That's a great tool because it'll show you the value of your team relative to the value of other teams and how far you're ahead or how far you're behind. And that'll really help you set the stage for whether or not you are a true contender and, be honest with yourself. And they're being nice enough now. We're partnered with us. You can use the promo code Wolfpack or just use the referral link in the comments below. Again, that's promo code Wolfpack or the referral link. You can sign up to be a Nerd Herd member or the Dynasty GM tool and you get 20% off. All right. So that's a great deal for them. And great deal for all of us. I've been using it, ever since I've been playing Dynasty. So, like I said, man, I don't push shit on you guys that I don't actually believe in, and they have a good product out there. So make sure you guys check that out as well in your spare time there, and see if it's for you. All right, just hop on over there, dynastynerds.com. Use the promo code Wolfpack and the link below. All right, that's all I got for you guys this week. Until next week, happy hunting. Hope you guys enjoy a great week of football, another Sunday of football. Even though it's a bye-apocalypse, there's still some good football out there to be played. So hope you guys enjoy and wish you guys the best of luck in your fantasy teams, man. Just one step closer to that goal, which is that championship belt. All right, see y'all next time. Peace.